Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July 10th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin Dowe. I'll be serving as your host or facilitator for the conversation this evening, and we're talking Carnival. We're into July after all. So thank you for joining us, whether you're looking at us on GBN television or any of our social media platforms, whether it's be Facebook, YouTube, etc. Thanks for joining us. It is a pleasure to be invited into your homes, into the bars, or wherever it is you're listening to us. And as we speak in Carnival, I have three guests who are rooted in our culture in order for us to have this conversation on the Carnival price tag. It is a very interesting conversation, and I know we will be having some very interesting discussions. I will just ask them to each introduce themselves, starting with my immediate left. So I'll give you Monty, I'll give you Eddie, your choice, whether you'll introduce yourself and the hat that you're wearing here this evening.
Yes, well, everybody know me as Eddie, which is actually my second name, but my first name is Monty Greenwich. Persons know me as a promoter and also a band leader as well. Been doing it for quite a number of years, maybe about 18 years thereabout. And if I have to give you, like in terms of the carnival and my interpretation of what is carnival.
But we ain't going there yet. Just tell me a hat. Just tell me a hat you're wearing, so promoter and
I give you two hats here.
Okay, all right. So let's move on there. Reese?
Right. As you said, my name is Reese Sam. I am what I refer to as a cultural enthusiast. I love our culture. I love our traditions. I probably known very much about my associations with a number of artists, in particular Mr. Killer, to do with his presentations and, overall things that he does. I'm a marketer by profession, and I love our culture, and that's why I'm here.
Good.
I'm Bobby Steele, been involved in Carnival as a band leader for 30 years, and retired to enjoy it as a masquerader now. I'm also a promoter for many years, and really a lover of Grenada Carnival, basically promoting it. It's trying to find a way to keep it a Grenada Carnival, because it means a lot to me in that aspect. But I've been involved in this for many, many years.
Okay. I must confess, ladies and gentlemen, that they told me that one of my guests would be Robert Steele, and I actually wasn't sure who that was.
Robert is my real name. Everybody knows
Bobby.
All right, Reese, we'll go ladies first.
Okay.
When you hear Carnival, what comes to mind? What do you think of?
When I hear Carnival, I think of Grenada. I think of the most festive period in our year, annually. I think about fun, I think about celebration, I think about children, sparkles, glitter, old oil, coals. I think of Monday night mass. I think about all the aspects that we know Carnival to be. But I also think about how is it that I am not liking some of the things that I'm seeing.
Okay.
So, yes.
Monty?
Well, when I think of Carnival, what comes to mind first for me is our premier music and cultural festival. And I say premier because it is a stage on which we showcase what is uniquely ours, right? And I think as a people, we have a responsibility to pass on from generation to generation, so that our children and our children could also enjoy what we call Carnival today. So we have that responsibility, and as we see, you say she's think of Grenada, but I don't even stop at Grenada because Carnival has become such a melting pot now, where it's become more global and Caribbean. But I still always like to keep in mind that as a Grenadian, we have to look at our niche and capture what is uniquely ours, right? So as much as Carnival is, as I said, our premier music and cultural festival, that is what should be showcased, whether it's our traditional mass, whether it's our fancy mass, whether it's our steel pan, name it, right? So that we, in turn, as I said, could pass it on from generation to generation.
Bobby?
Carnival to me is, I always believe that, I can't remember who I heard it from in Trinidad. I want to say that it was Peter Minchell, but maybe not. But the saying was one carnival, many destinations, right? But if we don't let each destination stand on its own strength, then you only have one carnival. And if you only have one carnival, then people are going to go to where that one carnival is at its best and the biggest showcase. And unfortunately, just due to island size and accommodation and everything, Grenada doesn't hold the ability to have the biggest carnival in terms of sheer numbers. So what we have to do in order to survive is to hold on to our destination, meaning when you come to our carnival, the product is unique. And unfortunately for me, this is where I don't think the people who are naturally involved, without running down anybody, because I think it's a hard thing to mesh, but I think they don't see where it goes. They don't see the end. They're only seeing this year to next year to next year. So they chase what they see outside rather than saying, let's hold what is ours and make it that it will survive any test of anything outside.
I know we'll have that conversation, but Rishi, what is Carnival supposed to be about?
Carnival is supposed to be about people and freedom. It is that time of the year when Grenadians, and I'm saying Grenadians because to me, we seem to focus a lot on tourists. And as you said earlier, our tourists are really on returning nationals. But we do have people outside of that come in. But it seems like our focus is on them versus us in Grenada. So when I think about Carnival, I think about what it is supposed to be, which is it is supposed to be a showcasing of our uniqueness. Fancy Mass, in my opinion, is something that is universal to almost every Caribbean island. What is unique for us is our jab, our shotney, our veku, our moko jumbi, our artists that sing on the jab rhythm, you know, everything that is just different, that is what, to me, is supposed to be promoted for our carnival.
Eddie, when you think of Carnival, who comes to mind?
History comes to mind, you know. And I said history comes to mind because, as I said in my introduction, whereby we have that responsibility to pass on, you know, all that we have learned from to our offspring, you know. But when you think of the Calypsonians, right, Calypsonians capture what was a part of society. You know, it's just like our newspaper writer, right? What happens every day. What Calypsonians did was to, in a summarized form, give you in their burning issue, right? It's about pan, right? It's about jab. It's about old mass, right? Old mass capture the politics of the day, right? Or the most humorous aspects of what may have happened during the year, right? So when I think of Carnival, I think of all these things. And I think it's a melting pot of all these different ingredients that makes it our oil. You understand?
Bobby, we're talking really about the price tag of Carnival, but just before we get into that, in your opinion, who should benefit from Carnival? And you can go as broad or as narrow as you'd like.
I think I heard them talking about Carnival, and remember when I got involved in this, this Carnival was a bit before your generation. They say 18 years. It was 30 for me. 30 years when I actually played, but involved in trying to get it going. You know, it was a dream of summer vacation, seeing it coming here and just not seeing anything. The only thing we had as a product, and it was uncontrolled. There was no control to it, meaning they came from all sides, but it was a controlled madness because you enjoyed it. It was job, right? And the mass bands, when I came in, a big mass band was 100 people. As a matter of fact, the small category for small band was 25 people, right? And it literally was, it transformed itself by the people. And I would blame myself in some regards that in a rush to make it happen, We went out there and did a lot of marketing on our own. We took teams out to all the different carnivals. We went out there and we really advertised to get people to come. And the number one question we would get asked outside, what is it that you want to bring us to? What you bringing us to? And the only thing we could tell them is, you have to come and experience our Juve. We couldn't say mass. We couldn't say these other things. We couldn't even at that time say the music because we didn't have any recognized outside of a jammer when I started who was somewhat known. We didn't have artists yet who were coming forward. So we sold jam, even though I was involved in pretty mass, right? And I'm saying the job that I went there and sold to people to come and see. Well, a lot of people don't realize that many of the leader promotions used to laugh at us in Trinidad. Used to laugh. They used to say, who will go Grenada? Who will go? But slowly, you got one or two people to come. You got the newspaper people to get across, say, well, yeah, which is all we incorporated and brought them over. And some of my lifelong friends now. And they came and they saw it. But what they saw, being able to go to blockos on the streets, parties finish in the morning, you could go anywhere and see music in the lead up to Carnival. You felt safe, you felt like if it was, there was no label and control and lockdown. And
so it was indeed a real street party.
It was a street party. And what everybody saw was this unbelievable celebration of freedom. And I say to people, when you look at our country, I believe without Carnival, there would be some sort of real social collapse because so many of us Grenadians here work for nothing. We literally survive on nothing. We survive on our neighbors and friends. Mm-hmm. Carnival provides that stress relief where we let go and we truly celebrate, the island without all the stress that comes after again for another year, mm-hmm. right? And to me, we have to be careful that we take that away from Grenadians and we just cater, as we say, to our foreign product. The foreigners that come here, they come here because they heard the stories of what this is. We don't have to transform it into what another carnival is like with all the VIPs and all of the things and lose on the price structures and lose what it is because we are going to just become one island and another destination is going to open eventually to those people and that crowd would leave. But by that time, we would have ruined our feel for the same for Grenadians.
We see who should invest in Carnival?
Who should invest in Carnival? I believe everyone should invest in Carnival. Parents should invest in Carnival in demonstrating to the children how is it that they're supposed to play mass, what mass is really about, what Carnival is about, the origins of Carnival. I think the children are very much pivotal in terms of what our product transcends to or what it continues as. So parents should invest in Carnival. People who are the authorities, the government, they should invest in Carnival. And investing in Carnival doesn't necessarily have to be so focused on it being about solely revenue generation. It should have other intricacies to it. It should be about maintaining our culture. What is unique about us? Telling our stories. Having people come and experience something that is unique about us and not necessarily what is it that they had a good time with somewhere else and being repeated here. So everyone has a part to play in terms of Carnival and it being what it should be.
Mm-hmm. Eddie, who you say now, different question, same theme. Who actually invests in Carnival? Risi gave who should invest.
Yeah. Who
invests?
Yeah. If you don't mind, I just wanted to just add something to what Bobby said, a misconception about, because remember when he said he came to Grenada, mm-hmm. a big band was about 25. And I'm thinking, I don't know if you know.
A small band.
A small band was 25, a big band was 100. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking my mother must be turning in her grave right now. Even, I don't know if Mr. Depredine might be listening, because I know he's a man that always I always had to tell people, Grenada brought Carnival to Trinidad, right? And there were big bands, right? And I remember, and I will say it's important for us to pass these things on from generation to generation, because I remember the stories. And one of it that jump off the top of my head, right, is a mass portrayal called the French Revolution. I remember my mother telling me about this and about people on horseback. You know, like how the French actually and how they portrayed, and there were bands as big as 1,000 people, right? So somewhere along the line there was some disconnect, but I just wanted to just interject, you know, because you know sometimes that gets lost, and there's even sometimes we have to go back to the history of it.
You know what is interesting here is that you're both right.
Yeah.
In that, in the stories I would have gotten, 40s, 50s, mentioned Awe and Band from Green Street, etc. Those were big bands.
Yeah.
What Bobby's referring to is when he came to Grenada, at that time.
Well, let me just say to you that what you say is factual to me, because I don't know if you know this, but I actually, when I first had started, as a little, I actually had a group called, it was Fun Lovers or something like that before it became Summer Group, right? But my idea, if I better like, I'm trying to find the right word, but basically I got in under Dorothy Patterson. And you know, I always laugh at this with her saying to me is, don't get in. And it was like, because she gave me all the reasons why not to get in, because of how the product had treated her and how the product had treated so many that had ended up leaving, right? And getting out of it. And by her saying all of these things to me, I got involved. And by me getting involved, even though she had discouraged me, she was always helping me from the back, because she has mass in her. No matter how much, and that's most mass years you get involved. You say, why do we do this? You know, why do we do it? But then next year rolls around and you get involved, you know? And so, yes, I heard all the stories. I didn't hit 1,000, but I heard the 700s, I heard the 500s, that it was at that level before. But there was a massive drop-off, and I put that drop-off, and I say one thing that was consistent, and it stayed consistent in my early years of mass, is that I always heard this saying about the judge's teeth. The judge's teeth, and this, and the judges give this one, and that is why a lot of people don't know that is one of the major reasons why I started off. I said I'm not involved in competition. Nobody is going to make me have a prize and decide what is my celebration of freedom. No money can do it for any of us as humans. If you're selling yourself by the money you make, and if they award you first as a reason why you celebrate your freedom, something is wrong, right? So this. And it was that, and over the years I saw so many arguments still continue to happen with other bands. And I say, you know, if they only sat down a minute and realized what they're actually doing, I understand the need for making money to make it work, right? But there's so many flaws to that system that we did with the subventions going on with bands for donkey's years, and nobody else could come in. As far as I know, a subvention should be there for the first year, maybe second, to help somebody get into the product, and then after that you have to survive on your own.
It ought to be seed money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's what is it that they just give it? No, it doesn't work like that for me, right? And so yes, I agree with you that it was there, right? And I also tell people I was lucky because even though I was born in Grenada, I grew up in Trinidad, and a big part of my growing up in Trinidad was in the area of Woodbrook in Trinidad, and that is the home. That is the home to all the main mass bands that ever came out of Trinidad and Tobago, right? And so I used to have to go to mass camps, and I was so amazed in my eyes what they were doing. They'd send us to go and buy a roti or go and get a piece of it, and that little 25 cents a dollar you get was our pocket change. But we grew up with this thing that, you know, wow, one day this is what I want to be able to bring, you know. So I would say to people, and Trinidad wins on its mass, and Trinidad wins on its music. We win on our job, but not the job we're seeing coming right now. Not they take away the freedom to take away the product to try and make it so. And I tell you, I say this as one of the flaws of it, the system, right? because I was one of the people that bought the paint bands, for instance, into Grenada. And, I thought it was a fantastic idea to complement, right? But I look at it and I say to myself, what have we done in one sense? You know what I mean? What have we created a monster, and how do you come out of the monster and get back our thing? And that is why I'm saying that the organizers, they need to see what it is they have. And I also say this, over the years of watching all the committees, very few of the members who sat on those committees have I ever seen in the other carnivals that I had been traveling to. Very few, right? I mean, I could take it here talking about 30 years and maybe a handful I have met in other carnivals, right? And I think that is a big problem. I think when we sit down here and we only see the TV pictures and we only see, what somebody's saying, we don't actually go and see the product and how it works for that particular island. And you mentioned St. Lucia, right? In St. Lucia, when I went and saw that carnival, most of the music on the road was not even soca. You were hearing Michael Jackson, you were hearing all of this. This is what the product was on the road. But they were enjoying what we call carnival. Right? And the bands were the costumes, everything, but they were not listening to the majority of soca. Soca came in from taking it from the other islands. Right. And then the artists getting strong. But what we saw and what we partook in the first time we went was we're like, wow, this is so different, but it works for the...
Well, you see Michael Jackson in St. Lucia, Kenny Rogers is huge in country and Western culture. Yeah. But Rishi, you had something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Monty was saying. I find that most times when we talk about the carnival product and what was there, we seem to have a view of what happened in St. George's. And I wasn't around for most of it, but like you, I've heard quite a lot of stories about those huge bands. And yes, it was mostly traditional. It's about Caesar, it's about the French, it's about different themes, right? My granduncle, Winston Kebusam, he was one of the traditional mass band leaders. And he used to be putting out a concept every year. And it was, when you hear the stories about it, it was no joke thing. There were the educators who were very involved in the story. There were the people with the fabric that had to come up with the right fabric. They had to get it from where to put together these displays and all of that. So there's quite a lot that happened in the past. They were big, they were small, but yes, we have lost quite a lot of that. And a lot of times when we talk about carnival, as I said earlier, we speak about St. George's, and that is not good, because places like St. Andrews, St. John's, they had full carnivals. And when I say full carnivals, I'm talking about carnival lunch, fancy mass, traditional mass, the shows, Queen Show, Soca Monarch, Calypso Monarch. They had live bands to back them up. So yes, we need to not narrow down carnival in Grenada as what happens in St. George's, because I believe when you spoke about the juve, the big juve that we had, that would have been in St. George's. Yeah.
Very well. But so I'm going back to who should invest, because what we heard, and Rishi gave us from parents come down and across. But who's actually investing in that carnival product? Or who has been absent in investing in that carnival product? And hence we have lost the traditions that you would have mentioned. We have lost the participation of the educator. We have lost the themed bands that were rooted in our culture.
Yeah. So what I would say, and let me start off by saying this. I think the biggest beneficiaries of carnival is the powers that be, right? The government, right? Whether it's through taxation, whatever it is. And I think we can't lose sight of that, in that, okay, if you are the biggest beneficiaries of carnival, you should reinvest in the carnival. Right? It's like having a shop. If you're doing stuff and you're not reinvesting back in it, it's going to fall apart, or it's just going to become just like a free for all. You understand? And the investment, it has to be monetary, but it has to be not just monetary, it has to be education as well, right? Because one of the shortcomings I found, whether it was on the, and I just don't put that on the state, but even the associations, whether it's a mass band associations and so, right? To ensure that, let's just speak about mass in particular. To ensure that mass grew and for it to go on and on, right? You would have had to invest into education to teach people into wire bending, into the same, knowing how to choose your fabrics, how to coordinate colors, all these different things, right? And unfortunately, the people who knew of these things were either attached to a banner on us or some form of a, whether it's a St. Paul's or a Gavi.
Interest in a particular.
Exactly. So hence the reason why some persons who wanted to get into, let's say for instance, because I'm speaking of mass here now, you had to go out of Grenada, right? Because that's where you could find designers, because we never invested in teaching people how to design, right? We never invested into having and attracting people to get into the business of going into fabrics and getting into gems and feathers and all these different things, because we never looked at it as an industry that was sustainable, right? And I make this point mainly because of one thing. People look now and they always look at the influx and say, okay, everybody there's this influx into the Grenadian Carnival, and we want to do something that is uniquely ours. Yes. But something we have to understand. A long time ago, Trinidad made a calculated effort, right, to invest in Carnival and to make sure that Carnival became a year-round industry, right? So they wanted to know like how to have Carnival so that designers could have work all during the year. And that's what they did. They exported their Carnival to every corner of the Caribbean, and anywhere you see a Carnival right now, you have mass, I can tell you a Trinidadian there, right? And that comes from investment, right? It comes from the top and it trickles down to all the other stakeholders where they're talking, because sponsors have their parts to play. As you said, the educators and the parents have their part to play, because everybody now have to play their part in order for this to work cohesively, right? And hence the reason now, I don't want to jump the gun, but hence the reason when you have something that comes from a destination, and let's say for instance, they have their perception of how it's going to be, they are going to impose their way of doing things on you, right? They are going to impose the cost of doing business in their realm on you. Right? This is their price point. They're not going to say, well, Grenada is 110,000 people. They ain't doing no research to find out what is the salaries of the average Grenadian. That case not. It would be interesting to go into some of the costs
the costs we'll definitely go in because that's what we're here tonight. But I just want to highlight a couple of things that you would have pointed out. The idea of the vision of Carnival coming from Trinidad as an industry, ensuring that you build a year-round industry. But let me also go to the academic, because the Carnival Institute, which was set up in Trinidad, has done research on carnivals throughout the region. So whereas we may not have been documenting Grenada's Carnival, if as an academic in the US at a university, for example, you want to find out about Grenada's Carnival, you may find there is more documentation at the Carnival Institute in Trinidad than you will find in Grenada, because of that investment, because they see themselves as a hub of Carnival. And just before we take our first break, I just want to play off of something that Bobby said, and this goes for all Carnival people. He says that, you're not making money, you're frustrated, but you come back year after year after year. This quote is not mine. This quote I got over 10 years ago from the present CEO of the Spice Mars Corporation, Mr. Cecil Noel. We were speaking about pan, and he said, it's not love of pan. It's an addiction, because man and woman does fall in love and does fall out of love. It's an addict that does keep going and going and going. So you're addicted to pan, like some of us are addicted to Carnival. We'll be right back after the first break.
CANDEC, Community Partnership Initiative.
The classrooms that were refurbished as a result of this project really were not conducive to installing ICT into the classroom. Many of the windows were not functional. The security to the actual rooms themselves were insufficient. At the Maribor campus, the roof was also termite infested. The college is extremely appreciative of the contribution of GrenLink to this project to really enhance learning through the use of information and communications technology.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue. Available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joints and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
You've heard it. Value your dreams, win your way with Playway. But don't just stop there. Multiply your winnings by adding Multi-X to your Playway ticket today. Multi-X is an add-on feature to the existing Playway game that provides you, our players, with a chance to have your Playway winning multiplied or earn free plays through an additional draw. That additional draw consists of Multi-X balls labeled FP, 2X, 3X, and 5X. To add Multi-X to your Playway bet, here's what you must do. After placing your wager on your favorite Playway numbers or symbols, answer yes when the lottery seller asks you if you would like to add Multi-X to your Playway ticket. Most importantly, for Multi-X to be added to your ticket, you must wager the same amount placed on your Playway bet in that same purchase. Therefore, if you wagered $10 on your favorite number or symbol, you must also wager an additional $10 to have Multi-X added to your ticket before the Playway ticket is printed. Upon receipt of your ticket, ensure that you see the words Multi-X played marked on your ticket, and that ends your purchase. To know if you are a winner of Playway with Multi-X, let's use an example. You wager $10 on 13, which is Blackbird, on the Playway chart. Then you add Multi-X to your ticket by wagering the same amount that you betted on Blackbird. That is an additional $10. When the Playway draw occurs, if there is a match of your number with the drawn number, the calculated winning for Playway is $240. That is $24 multiplied by $10. However, to determine the additional benefit of having added Multi-X to your bet depends on what Multi-X ball is drawn after the Playway draw. If FB, meaning free play, is drawn, you win $240 plus a free quick play Playaway with Multi-X ticket of the same value originally wagered for the next draw. For this example, the value of the ticket is $10 Playway, $10 Multi-X. If 2X is drawn, your winning of $240 gets multiplied by 2, earning you $480 in total. If 3X is drawn, your winning of $240 gets multiplied by 3, earning you $720 in total. If 5X is drawn, your winning of $240 gets multiplied by 5, earning you $1,200 in total. Be part of the excitement in playing Playway with Multi-X 3 times per day, Mondays to Fridays and twice on Saturdays. Value your dreams. Win your way with Playway. But remember, don't stop there. Multiply your winnings by adding Multi-X to your Playway ticket and watch your winnings grow and grow. NLA, making your dreams come true. You must be 18 or older to play.
Welcome back. We're talking the price tag of Carnival, but we did some background first within the first half an hour, as you can very well expect. Mauricio, I want to start off this segment with you. In 2023, as you view it, is Carnival a cultural event or an economic activity?
In 2023, it is an economic activity. Mm-hmm. And my reason for saying that is because of the focus on the commercial aspect of the carnival as opposed to showcasing what is unique about us. We find that what's the buzz that's in the air, and when it comes to mass in particular, is about fancy mass. And fancy mass by its name comes with a price tag that is really high. The other thing is that when we talk about the other aspects of Carnival, what is the focal point is on prizes and increased prizes for, I think, the Queen Show, the Soca Monarch, the Calypso Monarch. So we are hearing a lot about money. And with that, it is expected that people are going to bring their A game. It is expected that we are going to put on quality. But I am not seeing that side. I'm not seeing the balance. Okay, so there's increased prices, there's increased prices, but I'm not necessarily seeing the quality. Mm-hmm. I have seen some launches of fancy mass costumes where it's just like an accident waiting to happen. I have seen accidents that has happened, and the prices for those, what I call strings and things and gems and feathers, are very high. Mm-hmm. Whereas on the other side, the traditional mass bands, they are there. They are struggling, even though their prices might have increased as well from $10 or under $50 to, as what I've heard, like $125 for an adult in a vehicle band, $75 for a child. They are still there. They are still trying. They are still within our pockets, I would like to say. But the focus is not on that. And that is a traditional aspect of it.
Bobby, let me bring you in here. You mentioned earlier your support in your opening salvo. You talk about maintaining a Grenada Carnival. You mentioned over and over again the unique aspects of the Grenada Carnival because we have to put on a destination carnival. Reese just mentioned that it's thousands of dollars because the less you wear, the more you pay.
That's right.
Right? That's where we are. So my vehicle ban is $250.
Okay.
For the costume. But we see where the things that are uniquely us, the things that will allow us to showcase that destination carnival, seems to be at lower cost, but not getting the type of promotion from what I'm hearing from Reese. And how do we get that balance between the economic activity, high price that is driving the profiteering, and the culture that allows us to be a unique destination? So as Grenada, Eddie mentioned that the government are the biggest beneficiaries. The government is us. Right? So for us as a people to be the biggest beneficiary, how do we balance promoting our culture while at the same time maintaining that active economic activity?
Well, okay, you see, if you try to market and if you try to put the products that are, let's say, indigenous to us as a people in the same light and the same field that you're marketing something that is marketing to a different thing, you're going to lose that fight. You're going to lose that fight. For instance, me, when I used to go to Caracou Carnival, I used to look Shakespeare morning, Shakespeare Mass. Everybody went and played their pretty mass, but I wake up because I need to go see this, right? And if the way it is marketed in Caracou, there people know about it, is when I went there, I realized, wait now, the foreigners, the real lovers of Carnival, they were there watching it too with me. All the people who are just into, you know, they're going there to get drunk and they're going there to put on the strings and whatever, they're home sleeping. But there's an element that will come to Grenada for this. Right. You understand? So, but we have to market it and we have to find a way to put it on its own platform that brings people in for that.
And then Reese can go here. My understanding was that the witnessing Shakespeare Mass in Caracou on that Tuesday morning, Carnival Tuesday morning, is what brought about the staging of the traditional Mass in Victoria. Because the success and sustainability of the Shakespeare Mass was because it had its own space, its own time. Yeah. And philosophically, I am to understand that that is why the Traditional Mass Festival was created, to give our traditional mass forms that space so that, one, it can grow, others can be exposed to it, and that unique aspect of a Grenada Carnival, it will not necessarily be lost as we get into the Monday and Tuesday Bacchanal. But as we have seen over the years, the size of the bands likewise have grown because it had that germination point in Victoria.
Right. And that's why I speak to, and we have to find a way to market that. It's like how we market the Chocolate Festival. We gave it its own platform now, and it's growing because you've given it a platform. But to me, as soon as it starts to grow, we start to drop off on the marketing of it. So we let it go back down into, you know, there was a movement with it. I saw it, how it went, progress for a couple of years, but now to me, it's just gotten stagnant. We didn't continue, and we have to continue it. And I'm saying, when I look at us and we market outside, I remember, for instance, when I heard a couple of years ago we marketed Grenada as the home of 10,000 jobs. 100,000 jobs, sorry, right? And I would be honest with you, in my mind, I said to myself, how do I see our island as what we are attracting in? And that visual, because I said to myself, even though if I'm home, because a lot of that traveling audience who's going to carnivals is that 18 to 30 year bracket. That's what's heading to the carnival in terms of what we see as pretty mass carnivals, for lack of a better word. And I'm looking and saying, do we attract somebody to come to Grenada when they see a payhead or you know, a devil, with somebody's parents who are letting their kids go to what you would consider the equivalent to them of a spring break, because that is how they, in their mind, they send them off to a carnival? Would they send them to that image, right? And I was against it. I would be honest with you, as one of the people against it, because in my mind, I'm trying to see it and compare it to the pretty mass and how that will draw. But now when I look at it, I'm saying to myself, well, why do we want to draw people to our island for pretty mass when our base culture is Java and traditional? They would come for the pretty mass anyway if they come in, but we could pull a whole different crowd to come in and experience this, which is uniquely us, if we can find a way to tap in and market to that. And this is where one of the beauties are coming out of something, out of the pretty mass, because when you're inside, your vision is only on your directing. Even though I've always felt, and you know, when I used to go away and I marketed pretty mass with the groups we went with, I always used to sell our island to come for our Juve. For some reason, it was always come for our Juve. And when I sold Juve, it's weird because it was not selling Juve as in the product alone we see in town. All of the river limes, all of the Blackos, all of these things that were uniquely to us in Grenada that I had not seen in other carnivals is what I consider Juve. Because to me, the lead up to get to Juve is all part of the Juve experience, right? And that's what I'm seeing disappearing. And I'm wondering if by us following all of this outside dynamics in terms of what we're trying to build as a product, if we are not really and truly losing what makes our product, right? And some of that doesn't require money.
Right. Continuing to be uniquely rooted in our rich ancestral traditions.
You know, today I learned that our focus for this year's carnival is actually traditional mass. That was a secret to me. And I'm not saying that it wasn't mentioned, that it probably didn't meet a press conference, but the sensitization must be lacking for us to not know that. And looking at the traditional festival in St. Mark, I've been there for quite a number of years. I've seen the glory of it with the Wild Indian and the Veko and the Jab Jab and all of that. But we view this thing, and the way we approach it is like it's a mass to look at, have fun, join in with. The storytelling is not necessarily there. I sat a couple of years ago with Mr. Wilson George, rest his soul, and spoke to him about Veko. What Veko is about, the origins of Veko. And I was amazed at what this is. And in a nutshell, while we may not be able to, we wouldn't encourage the violent nature of the mass, but there's quite a lot about that story that needs to be told. And I believe that the average child who plays Veko, they play it for the stomping of the shoes, right. the gong, they don't know the story.
But the documentation you're going back to is important. And
yes.
that passing on of that legacy,
yes.
because that should be legacy. Sustainability of the product should be the legacy of the leadership.
Exactly. And if we don't know the story, then how can we really carry it on? How can we make sure that it is as authentic as possible? Let's look at the jab. The jab now is your friendly neighbor.
Yeah.
Everybody know who's the jab. The jab used to be a feared mass, just as Veko. Veko was probably even more feared than jab. But the jab was a feared mass. And the jab is very much attached to black people, to Caribbean people, to the slaves. But now when and I really don't want to offend anyone, but when you look at jab today, it is about rum, wine, and gal. It is, you see the representation of the enslavers playing jab. And to me, all of that, if they knew the story of it, they probably would not want to associate with it. And if we know the story about it, we probably would do a better job of representing for the jab on Juve morning. So our traditions are not in the authentic state that it needs to be, and the traditional festival need to have more focus on the storytelling as well as the fun and enjoyment.
Eddie, let me bring you on here. Is the preservation of our cultural heritage the responsibility of a promoter? Because really and truly our carnival, a lot of it is the private promoters. Yeah. But the preservation of cultural heritage and all the things we see talking about, is that the responsibility of the promoters, the ones who put on the activities that would pull the large crowds? So whether the feds or whether the mass band that now has 1,000 people or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a responsibility of everyone, right? Every Grenadian. But in saying that, right? And you would always hear me go back to the pause at me, because at the end of the day, we need to define what our product is. Remember, I started off by saying, I see Carnival as our premier music and cultural expression, or however you want to put it, right? If you go to a music festival or whatever festival in any part of the world, every aspect of that festival have its genre. It's have its place. And so too when you're speaking of Carnival, every aspect of Carnival have its place, whether it's Jab Jab, whether it's Veko, whether it's Calypso Pan, and so forth. So this is not supposed to be not everything has to be a money-making venture, right? And I always say the powers that be, because I think we have a responsibility, because they are the ones that have that responsibility to take and to pass on these things and as we as a people, we have to know to expose our kids to it. I took after a while I played mass for years and played Jab Jab for years, and after a while I decided, I had to bring my daughters and bring my children to Juve and let them experience it and let them understand, because at the end of the day, it can't just be about me. It can't be just about me going and grease up and playing in oil and then they staying home and they not understanding, because they would have now a skewed view of what Carnival is. They will take from it what they want. They will just pick up in their own little limited view. They would say, okay, people black, whoever it is, and they would add in the pieces. We have to fill in the pieces, right? So at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility. Yes, that financial part of it is important, but I made the point that the greatest beneficiaries have the responsibility to carry the mantle and to make sure that all this happens, because without it, and I just want to say it, because we don't want to have a situation like how our carnival is. I always make reference to how we all should have been speaking patois and French, and today we don't speak it because we never took on our responsibility as a people to make sure it passed on. So so I just want to wrap up by saying, yes, although we all have that responsibility, we know who carries the purse and we know where the investment has to come from.
Bobby, share with us a little bit in terms of your thoughts. Is Carnival overpriced? Because this is talking about the price tag, and part of the conversation that you'll be hearing is that the price of these fetes are so high, the price of these costumes are so high. The counter argument really would be, if it was too high, there'd be nobody playing, there'd be nobody going.
No, but basically it comes on again to and I agree, the demand creates the price, right? But I also believe we are the victims of our own, choices, because at the end of the day, we have a situation where we are now, if you look at Grenada's Carnival, the product is becoming more and more as, there's a funny thing, a Trinidadian actually called me from New York, and we were having this discussion because of my particular stance against the Trinidad boat, right? And he said, why y'all putting so much pressure on Trinidad? And I said, well, I have nothing against Trinidadians. I grew up in Trinidad and I love Trinidadians to come and experience our carnival. He said, Bobby, y'all fighting on a boat. But every flyer that you're using to market all your fetes in Grenada is Trinidadian artists on your flyer. You don't have the Grenadian artist as a big picture on your flyer, and the name is a Trinidadian artist is showcasing as you're drawing product to your carnival, but you're fighting on the Trinidad boat, right? And so I'm saying this to say we are making our carnival come a VIP carnival without understanding the mentality of our Grenadians. And we were just talking around and saying, if there were a fight going on in Grenada right now, and two girlfriends and their boyfriends going to the party, the two girls is two good friends, and I say, let's say any girlfriend and him going to, we make a plan, we're going to the party, and a couple days before he buys ticket and he's going to VIP with his girl. If I can't buy a VIP ticket for my girl, you have to go. There's no way we see going with my girlfriend to regular. A mentality is, hey, it's VIP or not. And I say, no, I'm not going to go and have her talk to me about she wasn't VIP and I was. And so we creating that. It's like when we send our kids to school and one child is wearing a Nike and the other one is, all of a sudden we have to buy a Nike, right? And that is what is happening to us. And do I have the solution? No, but what I do know is we better find a solution, because if we don't hurry up and find a solution, we are going to see our carnival become for the visitor and our carnival, and then what's going to happen is the frustrations of the people are going to kick in. The frustrations of the people who had this as their product, and this is our celebration of our freedom. All of a sudden it's becoming a celebration for people to come in and for it to be them, and for the 1% of Grenada compared to the masses of Grenada. And then my fear is that we will start to see, tensions and stuff come in. Like if you're not dealing with Trinidad, where in Trinidad market, for instance, you have your premium parties in the northwest and up in the south, and general mass of parties where everybody could afford to go in. They are more than enough because of the size of population.
Yeah.
In Grenada, the same fete that all of us could have go into 5 years ago, all of a sudden, all of us is becoming 1% of us and everybody from outside.
Risi, are you saying, because what I'm hearing from Bobby is that we're creating a carnival for people coming from the diaspora and visitors, and not a carnival for those of us who are here?
Yes,
do you agree with that?
Yes, we are. We are doing that. And on top of that, what we are selling to those people who are coming in is not what we should be selling. It is not what is unique. It is not what authentic. So yes, I do agree. The prices that we are seeing, the prices for shows, the prices for costume, all of that, we can't afford it. And what you find happening is that we're going to take a loan because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? As they say, I have to go to VIP. So we are going to go and take a loan. We are going to borrow. And at the end of the day, when the carnival over, what we should have been releasing on the street is now built up inside of us because...
Who says stop it? I mean, where does that cultural shift comes from of not keeping up with the Joneses? Who stands up in defense of our culture and say the things that we need to promote are the things that are uniquely Grenadian? Right? We must have fancy mass Monday and Tuesday, that's a fact.
Of course.
But we need to promote things that are uniquely Grenadian, which as opposed to costing $5,000 can cost you $250 and you can have an excellent time.
That's right.
Who's to take that stance?
The activists, the lobbyists, and they need to be strong enough to influence the government, to create policies, to ensure, to use the organizations like the Grenada Cultural Foundation, the Spice Mass Corporation, to create policies that would help put us in that direction where we are focused on telling our story, promoting our uniqueness while having the balance of the other things that are not necessarily unique to us.
Bobby, let me just bring in here. It's part of our problem that we're importing everything. I know the price of food, for example, is high in Grenada because we import all our foods. Are we thinking in the same way in terms of carnival? So the fancy mass costumes, we import everything. Even Monday night mass, we import everything. Although Monday night mass is a cheap mass. Is that part of our problem?
Well, Monday night mass is quickly becoming not so cheap a mass, right? And, you know, but again, I'll give an example of it, right? A few years ago, we spent, in terms of mass bands, we were heading all in the right direction. Grenadian bands were the stronghold they were building, right? And then we got into this thing is just let anybody come and bring a band in Grenada. And more importantly, our head body was endorsing every band. And we taking the monies from the bands because we collected money, right? We endorsed a girl that came to Grenada from the States to bring out a mass band in Grenada who was sleeping on somebody's couch. They did not have a bank account in Grenada. They did not even have the ability to rent a car and drive in Grenada. But they were producing a mass band for Grenada. Happening here in Grenada and selling costumes. The cheapest costume in that band for that year was going to be $750. On average, the costumes were over $1,500. Let us just say $1,000 and rounds it up that she was looking for a band with 500 people. That is $500,000. But the person who's producing the band is sleeping on a couch, right? Has no bank account here. When Carnival done, when people who could see this ain't looking right, try to have a conversation and say, investigate beforehand. We were run down radio, we get tired, we have to have new product and jealousies, and without actually understanding what was said. When Carnival done and nobody had their costume and person gone back with a set of money in their pocket and everybody here, all bad name all over, and every single media you could see we were being run down, our Carnival people, our head had endorsed that product. And when I had said, we were lucky. We got away lucky because in reality that might be a very strong legal case. Because if you endorse that to be I played on your strength, you endorse that, you said that was fine. And I'm saying I'm only giving that as an example, not to run down the SMC, don't get me wrong, the SMC will still have its role because what was happening before was it needed to be put some direction needed to come in and help in terms of setting up things and giving guidance. But what I'm saying is in our rush for the money and the endorsement and the encouragement for people to come in, we are forgetting to protect. We're forgetting to, how does a Andre Garvey mass band compete with a mass band out of Trinidad? How do we compete? We can't. When they're bringing in their product on the road, a mass band, a Grenadian, when they come to Carnival, yes, you might find a Grenadian has a friendship with Andre, right? And I'm only calling Andre's name as one man. You have a friendship, so I want to support the friendship. But at the end of the day, I want to enjoy the experience of all of the fancy things that comes in that's way beyond the budget that you could put on the road here. You looked at some of those mass bands last year, and you do the maths, and it's not adding up. It can't pay for what you're seeing on the road. I've been involved in a trailer. To put a trailer on the road is $20,000 easy. $20,000. Think of a mass band that has to produce 500 costumes, pay for those costumes, and most mass bands are not hitting 500. You're getting a 2 that going above that. How is it making sense? But if you don't put the trailer, you can't get the masquerader in your band, right? So that's when I say at the top has to think of what is our product? Can we logistically support all of these trailers in this tiny route that we're doing without it just being chaos? A man is now competing to try and put the biggest trailer on the road, the biggest song, so he can bang out the other trailer, and the experience is lost to the band in front because we only have a small route. Nobody is looking at these dynamics, right, in the rush to just make it look like how we see it in Trinidad. We don't need to make it look like how we see it in Trinidad. What we need to make it look like how you come to see it in Grenada.
Okay, we definitely would take up on that point. But it's time for a second break, viewers, so we'll be right back.
It's the 4th edition of Hubbard's Live Free for 1 year promotion. Cuatro Punto Cero. It's unbelievably amazing. You can win free fuel, free drinks, cash prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free cable, TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free passes to Sunshine Promotion events for 2023, free groceries, all for 1 whole year. And every winner receives a lunch package. Be sure to fill out the entry forms and enter it into the marked entry boxes at all Hubbard's departments and at participating outlets. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2023. Draws will be held every 2 weeks. Terms and conditions apply.
Freedom is driven to pursue that passion that keeps you up at night and makes you smile in your sleep. Freedom is bold to embrace the possibilities that can open up your world and conquer new heights. Freedom is fabulous, with bits and pieces that enhance the quality of your life. Freedom is what you do with the flexibility to change path or direction when you need to. Freedom breeds ambition and purpose while having loads of fun along the way. But most of all, freedom is well deserved for the road traveled and the journey still to come. Unleash your freedom with Nexa Credit Union. Offer ends August 31st, 2023. Call us on 440-1354 or visit our website to pre-apply. Apply now. Freedom awaits.
Renbec Community Partnership Initiative.
The classrooms that were refurbished as a result of this project really were not conducive to installing ICT into the classroom. Many of the windows were not functional. The security to the actual rooms themselves were insufficient. At the Maribor campus, the roof was also termite infested. The college is extremely appreciative of the contribution of GrenLink to this project to really enhance learning through the use of information and communications technology.
Welcome back, viewers, and of course we're discussing the price tag of Carnival, and it is your opportunity to join in, so feel free to call in and share your views. We certainly would like to hear from you. Just before you start making your contributions, Eddie, let me just go to you. Are patrons getting the value for money? We talk about things being expensive, but are we getting the value for money? In other words, when I play in that mass band or when I attend this fete, whether it's VIP fete, are we getting the value for money?
But that's not a very straightforward question, because, as I say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So I would say, with regards to, let's say, mass bands, right? Mass band leaders have a responsibility to the masqueraders and now mass has transitioned whereby everybody's offering an all-inclusive package, food, drinks on the road. So by and large, from repetition and people coming back, I would hope people are pleased with the product that they're getting, because they seem to be continue to be buying into it, right? In terms of the VIPs and the events, you would get at every event whereby somebody say, watch now, food went out, they didn't have that drink, and they say it's premium, but they didn't have this drink. So you would have that, you would have that bit of a conversation, right? But with regards to generally people getting value for money, I would like to say that holistically, I would hope so, right? And just said, because I know we may have, I don't know if you have callers coming in as yet. One of the things I would like to see us do, from a governmental standpoint, we need to define what our product is, and in defining what our product is, we need to set a blueprint, whether it's that 3 to 5 year plan as to what we want to see our carnival looking like, right? And work towards that. Because if we don't do that, right, the product is going to be however it evolved to be. It's just like how we started off with a certain amount of juvies. Now we have juvies on Tuesdays, whatever it is. As I always say, it just takes somebody to go and decide they go have a juvie in town on a Tuesday morning. You know, nothing to stop somebody from doing that. So hence the reason why we have to package what our product is, and then when we package it, we put it outside there for the public to choose.
All right. And we see our prices higher because people are getting more, or are we just raising prices because people pay 5,000 or 10,000 in Trinidad, so therefore it's 5,000 here, or is there really greater bang for the buck?
Not necessarily. I think some things people might be satisfied, some they're not. We're addicts. I believe what Cecil Noel said, that we are addicts. We are like abused women. No matter how much, we keep going back. Yeah, abused people. I believe that we are just easily pleased, and we are by nature we are very forgiving people, and we always feel that next year it's going to be better. I don't want to call any particular show name, but there's a particular show every year. I ain't going back to that. It's that late. 4 o'clock, you don't see no artists yet. Drama. But every year we keep going back because we keep hoping that it will be better. It's not that we are satisfied, but we just feel that it would get better.
But do you, I want to interject in that in a sense. We as a people might feel to go back, but the people who come in from outside, who are seeing what's happening, jumping into the market because they know that they can bring their professionality to it in Grenada and take it. Like I could tell you.
But let's just one. We do have our first caller online. Caller, good evening and welcome. Okay, all right. So they went up. But 440-1252. Feel free to call in. Go ahead, Bobby.
I tend to watch the outside media and the social presence of what's happening for our carnival. And I can tell you that one of the most talked about events happening in our carnival is not happening by a Grenadian, right? It's a particular soca artist from Trinidad who is doing something here. And it is the talk and the push is towards that. And I'm saying, I have nothing against that act. I have nothing against that individual. But I do have a problem that we are making our carnival because that is the door opening. Right. And once the door opens...
We have the first caller online. Good evening, caller, and welcome. Seems like we lost that caller. 440-1252. And Bobby, as you continue, are we putting ourselves in a position where we're marginalizing the ordinary Grenadian?
Yes, and it starts with this. And this is what I'm saying. I blame myself because I put myself in that practical blame because maybe I didn't voice hard enough and go for the protections. I always used to say we needed, as I saw it growing, I said we needed to get in there now, put the legislation in to protect it before, because this that is happening to us, somehow or the other, and I don't think I'm the only one, but I speak to it and say I saw it maybe 20 years ago starting to come. And each year that I tried to speak about it, I didn't feel like we were getting anywhere to, and I gave up. I gave up trying to compete and get people to see the message. But it is definitely there.
Let's see if we can get this caller in. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening. I welcome the topic you have on there tonight, and I just want to take a little task with something one of your presenters indicated, right? In that they indicated that the biggest beneficiary of Carnival was in fact the government. I want to say that I think that is totally wrong. In fact, Carnival, like it or not, is the biggest economic activity, single economic activity that we have in Grenada. In fact, I have done some minor research into it and found that between mid-July and mid-August, you sometimes have the population increasing by as much as 10%, sometimes a lot more. The value of that, because if these 15 or 20,000 persons buy food at the supermarkets, pay the buses, rent a vehicle, rent an apartment, and all that, and on the back of it, they go to the shows and they play mass, at least some of them. The financial input that is distributed there, right, is way more than any other single economic activity that happens in Grenada for the year. So I know we're looking at the cost. And as I say, I don't agree with the statement that the government is the biggest beneficiary. Look at the airlines. Look at everybody else, right? No. So I think we have to get away from this idea that the government is the beneficiary. Government must spend more money, and I believe government should put more into it. And I think everyone, including the government, must recognize the actual value of this product. And it is something persons like myself has been speaking to since the 80s, that we do not recognize. We recognize it is our most important cultural activity, and it's saleable. In fact, I agree with, I think, Risi. in fact, the traditional mask is much prettier than the pretty masks that are on the street on Carnival Tuesdays. And I have been going to it from the start, one of the few tongue people, as they say, that actually go to it. But it is actually prettier masks than we see on the streets in St. George's, right? And that could be considered as a criticism, and take it like that. But I just want us to understand that this is an economic product. That is the most important economic product we have in Grenada. So single. I understand that the tourism between November and let us say April may bring in more persons, but when you look at the spend and you look at the circulation of what comes in,
yes, caller.
We need to look at that.
Good, thank you very much. Couple of things being mentioned, of course. Just the visitor arrivals is somewhere between, at this stage, 10,000, 12,000 coming in. But what I'm also hearing the caller saying is that we need to share the responsibility. It cannot rest on government, because there are other beneficiaries. He mentioned the hoteliers, he mentioned the promoters in terms of the big fete, he mentioned the supermarkets, the restaurateurs. But if we are to go to a fete, one of the ones I always come to is the person who's selling the disposable. You know, whether it's the containers, the knife, the fork, the etc., the plastic. I'm saying plastic glass because that's cultural, right? They are also beneficiaries, and also should be some of those who are investing to ensure that our product is sustainable.
Well, yes, I agree with that 100%. The government is not the only beneficiary, but in terms of like the biggest contribution to as an entity, right? Because we could talk about the food vendor would get their share of the pie, the promoter, whatever it is. But collectively, right? Whether it's through taxation, whatever it is, and I'm speaking.
But how many of these people actually pay taxes, and do they pay their fair taxes?
Well, that would be something, but I am just making reference to, because I remember some years ago, right, they did a symposium right after Carnival, and I'm taking this from the government's numbers, right? Over 10,000 people come in, they showed you what their intake was, and when you looked at what the millions that was being made, what they were putting back into Carnival at that time, if I remember correctly, they were putting, I think, was $700,000 into Carnival, and that was really negligible.
So if you're talking about the economic impact assessment that was done some years ago, in a depressed year when there was layout strike on, the numbers showed about 18 million generated from Carnival. Government's investment though in Carnival was 700,000.
Yes.
That return on investment, you must be in some illegal activity to get that type of return on investment.
So, and that's my point. You understand? So when you get in that type of return on your investment, right, it is incumbent upon you to reinvest in the product, right? And that's why I'm saying we always have to keep redefining the product and have a long-term plan as where we want the product to be. Because as it is now, the product is just evolving, and we have no control in what direction it may go.
Bobby?
I do want to interject here a little bit, though. I believe that, if we're going to achieve where we want to go, we have to give credit where credit is due. This particular government has implemented some policies to get, in terms of all the tax breaks and so the concessions they're giving in terms of being able for the studio, the equipments to help us to have this stuff here to be able to operate. I think that we have to give some credit in that regard, right? And they're doing good in that. But it's just that, we need to see everything in a holistic way, and not just this year. To see it, where do we want this to be? You said 5, but 5 is a short-term plan to achieve things. We have to see this as, where is it going to be in 20 years, right? And we have to start working, because to make any change, 5 years is relatively a short period of time. So we got to start putting things in place from now, right? Somebody wanted to bring a band in Grenada, you have to be living in Grenada. We want to see that bank account set up inside of Grenada here. We want to see, you're saying, because what's happening and what is it's hard to control is these bands and these things from outside are picking a Grenadian.
The front.
And you're the front.
Yeah.
But all the money leaving Grenada and going out when the carnival done, and if they leave you with $1,000 or whatever, it's small change, right? Everything is going outside. We have to get systems in place to monitor it, to be able to see, because some of this activity of money is also evading the taxation systems, right? So we need to collectively come together and put systems in place to protect against this now. And this is why I'm saying that is where the angle that I think that we need to get more involvement in. And I mean, there is absolutely no reason, none whatsoever, right? Because I guarantee you, and I've spoken on this, and I say, I have the benefit of running one of the biggest nightclubs in Trinidad for 4 years and being involved in one of the biggest carnival fests in Trinidad as a Trinidadian living there. I mean, that's a Grenadian, I'm both Trinidad and mother-father thing, right? And I can tell you that the Trinidadians would never support a foreign party in their carnival, because they have an internal pride of standing up for what we're, and our people, see, and we've seen this a million times at shows, right? We've seen the population go out to a show in Grenada, and the artists that they put on that headline to bring them could not touch our local artists on stage. But we didn't have the pride. They wouldn't go to see that artist, the Grenadian artist alone.
We have a caller online. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Mr. Bobby, you used to bring in all them band out of Trinidad, all them costumes.
I never bought in a band from Trinidad in my life. And I can tell you point blank, I've heard that a million times, and nobody, and even when they disqualified us for bringing in brass bands, we were able to show to the person in charge of the Mass Band Association, our mass camp, the people who worked in the mass camp, the people who were there, and everything. We brought in Trinidadians to help us, to show us what to do, but they were here in Grenada working here with us. We never built anything in Trinidad and imported anything. It was always here. Right? So I want to make that clear. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that I would go in Trinidad and produce a mass band in Trinidad. And if you have that evidence, please bring it forward and show it to anybody. All right?
As we look, because we're coming up on time and we have about 8 minutes left, so we getting some wrapping up comments. But how do we institute change? We speak of having that vision. We spoke of an investment coming from government that is not necessarily that of money, but leadership. And that's why I guess the likes of the SMC has been set up. Bobby, you spoke of 20 years, because it's not year after year that we just keep putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, as it were. But as you give some closing comments, and probably I'd leave the lady for last deliberately, so I'll start off with you, Eddie. Just as you reflect on some closing comments where we can corral the cost of Carnival to a Grenadian while still promoting access to our Carnival to all Grenadians. What would be your thoughts there?
So what I would say, right, when we're dealing with consumers, you would never be able to get away, especially with the advent of social media, with all the hype and everything. So it's all about packaging. So people go after these big glitzy, the big bands, whatever it is, with the big prices. And sometimes they don't look, there are bands that are cheaper, there are costumes that are cheaper. Persons, at the end of the day, yes, hats off to the people who package their product, and at the end of the day, that's what they gravitate towards, you understand? But in saying this, we have to, and yes, I understand sometimes you say 5 years might be short, but when you're planning, you have to do the short to medium to long term, right? You can't wait, implementation is a gradual something. And in creating what our product is, our product can address price, right? And the way we can address price in that the bodies and the stakeholders then can find ways to make it cheaper for even the persons putting out mass to bring mass, right? Whether it's to be, I know we have the subvention or whatever it is, maybe they need to go a step further, right? I know they had things like they had the subvention, they had the concessions, right? Now, these things may have to come with a prerequisite whereby you have to pass on some form of these discounts. It should translate in discounts that to go to the consumer, right? If you're taking monies from the powers that be, at least there should be a benefit, right? So I think all of these discussions need to be had and has to be part of that overall blueprint, right? Because without a blueprint, as I said, we just go into evil. And it's funny that this year I think the theme of Carnival is the evolution, right? And evolving, you know, you cannot take all these aspects, and I said you have to take all the education as part of it, the cost as part of it, the preservation of the product and the education, because if we pass, and maybe that will require us even looking and bringing mass, whether it's traditional in schools, right? I know there might be some issues there because we have church schools and they may have issues there, but we have to look at a framework that tackles all these issues. It's a complex but an easy issue to solve. It's just that we have to have the testicular fortitude and the will to do it.
Okay, yeah? Bobby, closing?
I definitely think that we start by the education within the schools. We start by, even our marketing year wrong, start making our people idols in their own country. Start like those stories that we're talking about there in terms of the history of why are we not seeing that more visual year round, not waiting just for Carnival, but start making the faces so that we as a people could start to feel proud of our people, not just when Karani go and win a goal, we fly, or when somebody decides saying something bad about us, we jump, right? But we actually feel proud to look at our artists on posters, to look at our carnivals, and that is an education thing. That is a thing that starts by showing what is our person outside there when they go and perform outside. What are they outside? Because this same person that we see has nothing here. I could tell you as a person, Uber Soca Cruise, 3 years in a row is our artists that look like if they won the whole show, right? I'm saying we don't have the pride here. We don't seem to have it. We wait until, yes, we go in and then we come outside, boy, Talpi beat that man, they make man look like nothing on the stage. No, we want everybody to come in. When you go to Trinidad, I always say, if I go to Trinidad, I want to go and enjoy a Trinidad Carnival. I don't want to go and enjoy a Grenada Carnival in Trinidad. When I go to St. Lucia, I want to go and enjoy a St. Lucia Carnival. And I believe fundamentally the majority of people that are coming to our carnival would love to come and experience a Grenada Carnival, right? But they come on what they hear, and then they end up playing in what they are accustomed and comfortable to, because we have accepted that is what we want to give them. And it is going to take time. A carnival store here, the concession, even the concession when offered, what you have to do with the concession, you have to go and buy the materials from Trinidad and spend the money outside, and the money there, and you're going to Trinidad and your trip, and I'm saying we could build a carnival store here. And let me tell you, when some of the designers, some of the people who are actually sewing in Grenada right now are really talented people when it comes to sewing, right? We just need to give them the platform to be able to buy the materials here and let the imagination run. If they could get everything that they have to go in Trinidad and get, and they could get it here, the imagination will take over, and we will see a huge difference, and also in costs. Because once the materials are available here, with that connection we have with China and with our government that could understand what it could be, right? The same way the concessions are offered for all the musicians to get their equipment in and all that, we understand that is how the government can best suit building this product and other potential festivals around the year, and not just the carnival product alone.
Excellent. Risi?
So I didn't get to respond to the question about who benefits most. And I agree with the caller from before that the businesses. I have always had serious issues with the biggest beneficiaries that you don't hear as a sponsor of Spice Mass. So we're talking the hoteliers, the airlines, you really don't hear them. Even the drinks company. Sometimes I wonder why is it that a particular statutory body is like the biggest sponsor of Carnival. Yes, your mandate speaks to supporting that, but why are you the biggest? What is being sold at Carnival?
Chicken.
And drinks, right? What is being sold? The things that are being sold the most, you are not seeing the suppliers as being top tier sponsors. I have a pet peeve where that is concerned. In terms of, you know, how we go forward, policies. Policies are very important. Another thing is that people need to be like kings in their own country. And I'm talking about the traditional mass makers. Recognize them. Incentivize them. Let us see our traditional mass, whether it's in the form of statues, in the form of stuffed, you know, figurines, whatever. Let us see that year round. So the children are playing pan in school. This is great. I love that. But why aren't we seeing what a vehicle looks like, what a shotney looks like? Why is it that they are not bombarded with that throughout? As opposed to how they are bombarded right now, especially on social media, with everything fancy, everything naked, everything strings and beads. Why aren't they doing that? And I'm not knocking it because it has its place. There are people who would always gravitate towards that. But why aren't we giving our traditional mass that same drive? Or why aren't we incentivizing our mass makers to want to do this more? So this is where we need to go. We need to have policies in place. We need to incentivize. We need to promote. We need to tell our stories. And we just need to look at what Tobago has done in terms of not looking towards Trinidad to design their carnival, as opposed to looking at us. There must be something good about us. But we are going to lose it completely if we do not do the right thing.
Thank you very much, Bobby Steele, Brissy Sam, Eddie Greenwich, and to you, our viewers and listening public, for joining us as we discuss the price tag of Carnival and how we can assist in helping it grow, helping it be more accessible. Some of the themes: investing. Another one, our own pride, and certainly the support of our traditional mass art forms. July 29th, Saturday, July 29th, in Victoria, you will see the traditional mass art forms being showcased. Come out, support it, support Grenadian. Demonstrate your Grenadianism in every aspect of our lives. My name is Colin Dowe. I'm happy to have been your host this evening and look forward to joining you again 6 days, 22 and a half hours from now. Take good care.